everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pop Culture Hangover. I'm Justin, and as always, I'm joined by my good friends...
Josh.
Stephanie.
So, as you can see, we are trying something new this week. We're going to see how this works out. Anthony couldn't join us. He's at home taking care of the kids. So, we're coming to you live on a Saturday morning from the great state of Tennessee, and we are here today, correct me if I'm wrong, to talk about some upcoming and some current Marvel entries into the multimedia world, the television and movie world more specifically. Everybody had a chance to watch Agent Carter yet?
I didn't.
You didn't watch it last night? You were supposed to.
I know. I failed. My husband came home early, and I know there are certain things I can't watch in front of him because he'll make fun of me. And anything Marvel or comic book related are included on that list.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. There's a dog in your lap?
Yeah. He's almost like a child. He really wanted in my lap. I'm sorry. So you didn't watch it, Josh. Did you have a chance to check out Agent Carter?
I wasn't really interested.
Okay. Well, then this will be a short conversation about Agent Carter. If y'all haven't watched it, it was good. It was a period piece set in 1946, New York City. Follows the exploits of Agent Peggy Carter after the events of Captain America: The First Avenger. Her introduction into the SSR, the precursor to S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's an 8-part miniseries. There was a 2-hour episode that came on last week. But during that episode, we were lucky enough to be able to see the first teaser trailer for Marvel's hopefully newest entry into their universe, Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. What did everybody think about that?
I am so excited about it. It looks great. And I was very skeptical. But Paul Rudd's great. So I'm psyched.
Well, it's hard not to be skeptical about a movie called Ant-Man, who...
I like that they addressed that in the trailer, too.
Yes, yeah. It's an interesting character. It has a checkered past. Do y'all know about the checkered past of Ant-Man?
No.
Do you, Stephanie?
I know a little bit about, like, the whole...
It was in the 60s or 70s. Yeah, in the 60s or 70s, I believe, there was an issue of the Ant-Man comic that had him striking his wife, Janet. And it caused a lot of controversy back in the day. It was something for the record book. So this is an interesting character to have such a checkered past. Of course, we saw in the trailer, Michael Douglas. You know who Michael Douglas is playing in the movie, Josh?
No. Liberace.
No, that was Matt Damon.
Okay.
No, in the movie, Michael Douglas plays a scientist named Hank Pym. In comic book continuity, Hank Pym
is Ant-Man.
Is the original Ant-Man and also created Ultron from the May release of Age of Ultron. So in this movie, it's going to appear that Michael Douglas, as Hank Pym, has created Ant-Man, has been Ant-Man in the past, and is now passing the torch on to Paul Rudd's character, Scott Lang, who's a master thief.
Do you have to get a degree for that? Like,
you do.
You get your bachelor's in thievery, and then you...
It's 4 years, yeah, and then you have to also write a thesis. It's weird. But,
gotcha.
So he passes the torch on to Paul Rudd. We saw a very quick glimpse of Evangeline Lilly playing Janet Van Dyne, or a character that will become Wasp.
Well, which is weird, because wasn't Hank married to Van Dyne?
That's correct.
So they're totally screwing up the continuity.
Well, in this iteration, they still wanted some sex appeal, so they made him they made Janet Hank's daughter. And I would assume that Scott and Janet will have a relationship.
That's kind of creepy.
Well, it's different. That's for sure. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I am optimistic. A lot of people think this will be Marvel's first stumble. This will be the first movie to fail for them. Thoughts on that?
Well, that's what everybody said about Guardians. and look what happened.
I think people were saying they were excited about Guardians. What do you mean?
I think everybody was like, "Oh, Marvel's finally made a big fat stinker." Like, it's this like comic book franchise that people don't know a lot about, and they're making
True.
this like huge budget movie about these characters that we don't already love, that don't fit in with the rest of the Marvel universe already.
I will say,
And then it was like huge, like they just printed money. So, I mean, Marvel knows what they're doing. Like, I don't think they're going to make a bad movie because they have too much writing on it.
I have one thought. Paul Rudd, who I love and think he's funny, and when he's a supporting actor, but whenever he's had starring roles, they kind of suck. And it's not his fault. I think it's bad, scripts and stuff. But that might be an indicator that it'll suck. Because name one good starring role movie with Paul Rudd in it.
This is 40.
What about, I mean, even like Role Models, the movie he did with Sean William Scott, that was a funny movie and wasn't incredibly successful. But here's my point, I think, in the difference between Ant-Man and Guardians. Guardians is true, was a lesser-known title. Not a lot of people were exposed to it as a comic book, so there wasn't a whole lot of fan base behind those characters before they made their big screen appearance. On the other hand, Hank Pym is a pretty popular comic book character. He's been around since the beginning of the Avengers, so, if not earlier. So, he's a very known entity within the Marvel Universe. Scott Lang, maybe not so much. The Wasp, though, is definitely, and so is even Yellow Jacket to an extent. So, I think more people know about Ant-Man than knew about Guardians when it came out. I'm just worried that Ant-Man is not going to be a good movie.
Why? Why are you worried about that?
Ant-Man. What do you mean?
Well, I'm worried about that because when I was watching the trailer, I couldn't help but have bad Honey, I Shrunk the Kids flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how. I'm not necessarily even faulting the direction of the movie for that, but it makes me curious as to whether or not that they chose the safe way to do. I don't know. I don't know if Edgar Wright had a different vision, and it would have been something different than what we're actually getting here. Paul Rudd.
I admit I really would have liked to see the Edgar Wright version of this movie.
Well, and I would have too, and I really would have too, but more to the point of I'm just worried that this is not going to be a bad movie. It was plagued with problems from the beginning, from the time they actually decided to put it into production to the time Edgar left, to hiring a new director, to going through rewrites. They had to go back and do reshoots, which isn't uncommon in Hollywood. They do that all the time, but they did like a middle of the road. They didn't do a short reshoot schedule. They didn't do a long reshoot schedule. They just kind of rode the middle. So I'm worried that this movie's going to fit too much into this little box that Marvel has put together, and it's not going. If it doesn't make $600 million, I'm sure it will make back its budget. I'm sure it'll make some money, but if it's not a blockbuster, it's got to be considered a failure.
Because the stakes are so high?
Well, because every other Marvel movie has been at the top, has been a blockbuster. There hasn't been one that has been mediocre. So if Ant-Man is mediocre...
Do we need to talk about the Incredible Hulk movies?
That is...
Or do you mean in
that was pre-Iron Man, though, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the Eric Bana one where Robert Downey Jr. Cameos in the end of the bar with William Hurt was after Iron Man thrown into the current Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Eric Bana was not after Iron Man. That was before Iron Man.
Was it?
Yes. The Eric Bana Hulk was...
Yeah, the Ang Lee one was after.
I'm sorry,
You're thinking Edward Norton.
I'm thinking Edward Norton. I apologize. I had to look at my Marvel Phase 1 limited edition.
It's okay. I was here to set you straight.
I appreciate that, Josh. So again, my point is, if this movie only makes $400 million, it's gonna be a miserable failure.
Yeah.
God, I wish I could make $400 million and be considered a failure.
I'm sure that they're gonna dump. They're gonna dump $250 million by the time you take in production and marketing for the movie. So Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying I'm wary of it. I'll go see it. Don't get me wrong. They'll get my $10, but
I don't know. And there's a huge, like, the trailer affects your perception so much, and this is really kind of a testament to it, because I was not really excited about Ant-Man at all, and I was like, Paul Rudd as a comic book character? What? But I have to say, like, the teaser makes me really excited to see it.
I'm
Like,
excited. I think I'm excited to see it
and
too.
I said that, and I hate Michael Douglas. Like, I'm not excited about seeing him, but I want to see the movie despite him being there. Like,
Why you hate Michael Douglas?
what's to like?
Romancing the Stone was awesome.
Jewel of the Nile was even better.
Come
I
on,
don't
I know
know
you guys
about
are
that.
thinking about Basic Instinct.
No. That would be Sharon Stone discussion.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just don't like him, but
Well, to each his own. To each his own. But
I like
all in
the way
all,
that they make fun of the name. Like, they're acknowledging that Ant-Man is a ridiculous superhero name, and I like the kind of, like, when he tells him he needs him to be Ant-Man, and Paul Rudd is just like, huh. Like, there's something about the like absurd incredulity of that makes me excited about the tone of the film.
well, and you picked out an interesting scene to talk about. So if I'm understanding that correctly, Michael Douglas has been Ant-Man before.
It looks like
So,
he's looking to pass the mantle on.
yeah, so, has he been operating very covertly behind this? I mean, does nobody know what he's been doing? The Pym particle is what Hank Pym creates that allows him to shrink down to Ant-Man size. The helmet is what allows him to communicate with the ants. So if he's an older version, he's been doing this, that would mean that 20 years before Iron Man, we technically had superheroes in the United States and just didn't know about it, right? Right?
Eh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Marvel, they obscure the timeline whenever it's convenient for them. It's like they talk about the Howling Commandos, which were they superheroes maybe in the 40s? Like, Captain America was in the 40s, so, like, we've already retconned a superhero back into that time period. So, I don't know. Like, they're gonna bend time to suit their needs.
And they do that a lot in the comic books. They fuck with the continuity to the point to where it's almost you can't decipher when's where. You just have to go with it. See the X-Men universe. It's horrible. But if they do that with the movies, and there's not a strict continuity, and they start confusing viewership, they're going to start losing viewership.
You think?
Very quickly. Yes, because moviegoers won't put up with that. Moviegoers, you have their attention for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and if you confuse them, by the time you release a sequel to that next movie, they'll be like, I didn't understand the first one, or I got lost in the first one. And I'm not going to go back to, at least I won't go to the movies to go see this. I might go rent it at the Redbox for $1.50, but...
Although breaking continuity doesn't make it confusing. They could just they could break continuity and make it really dumb and make it look real flashy and make everybody want to come see, whatever Marvel movie's out. Now, I think the majority of your money's made off people that would see anything Marvel, regardless of continuity.
Well, that's like saying that anybody will go see any movie that Tom Cruise is in. And that once maybe had its point, just like, any movie Schwarzenegger put out, everybody was going to go see. Any movie Tom Cruise puts out. But your audience reaches a certain age and a certain time to where they're not going to put up with it. And if Marvel has a plan through, the mid-2020s, then that means that the person who saw Iron Man in 2009? 10?
8, I think.
2008.
Yeah.
As a 5-year-old is now going to be an 18-year-old.
Wow. They've grown up with these movies.
It's a lot of time to go past, so it's a lot of time. It's a lot, and especially in today's world, as kids, they're going to grow up with the cartoons. They're going to grow up with, being inundated with it. In every store you walk in has a license from Marvel and DC and every other comic book character they can get their hands on, and is drowning you in this stuff. So saturation of the market comes into play at some point in time too. So you have to be careful when you fuck with a timeline and when you do risky characters. So we'll see.
I don't know. I mean, Guardians is part of the overall arc, but it wasn't really. It was just different. Like it was.
It
set
existed.
apart.
Oh, sorry, my microphone just fell into my face. It existed in outer space, and although I know it's part of the bigger arc with the Tesseract, and we saw the characters from Thor, it really almost existed on the periphery of the MCU, whereas Ant-Man is going to have to exist, in the middle of it. It's going to be in New York City, or it's in San Francisco, but it's right there in the mix of it. There's no way that Ant-Man doesn't know about Iron Man and Thor and Captain America and the Chitauri and things like that. They have to address that at some point in time. Whereas Star-Lord and Gamora, they don't have to know shit about the Battle of New York and what Tony Stark is going through and where's Iron Man. And
well, wait a minute though. In Captain America, where was everybody else when the city was about to be destroyed? Weren't they about to blow up all these locations, and it was just Iron Man fighting everybody with this wingsuit flyer guy, whatever that guy's name was.
Are you
talking?
Are you talking about Captain America?
There was no Hulk. There was no Iron Man. What were they doing?
They were busy, Josh.
See, but that didn't exist. It exists in the same world, obviously, the Shield and everything, and they're talking about it. But why would those people not at least appear? It's hard to believe that you could have this movie and people aren't thinking, where are these guys at?
They didn't have the budget for all the characters.
You can't say that in a movie. There, you can say, "Oh, where's the budget?"
Well, but that's a. It's the difference between solo books and team up books. You have to have.
I enjoyed them.
You can say that every time that Cap goes out, he needs backup, and
I feel like Marvel knows what they're doing enough that they have thought about this and they are going to address it in an intelligent way that doesn't insult the audience. Because they're good about that.
Consumer confidence in the Marvel brand is definitely at a high, so I think people will trust them and will go check out Ant-Man. But I fear what's going to happen after that first weekend, and if they don't hold on. So
it's the least attractive title of any of the Marvel.
I agree with Josh.
Ant-Man. That's the problem where people are going to be like, I'll wait for Redbox or I'll wait for download, whatever.
I don't know. I know I'll be there.
I won't.
I'll go too.
You won't?
Probably
Josh?
not. I don't go to the movies much. Probably next time I'm in the movie theater is going to be this December, and it's going to be Star Wars.
You're not going to go to a movie for the next 12 months.
I usually don't go, but maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
You're not going to go see Avengers?
I might. It just depends.
I go to movies like twice a month.
Yeah, I think that's a lie. I think it's probably like 4 times a month.
It might be. All right, guys. So, anybody else have anything to add on Ant-Man?
Nope.
I don't know. Marvel hasn't done me wrong yet since they've created the whole MCU. So I'll trust them. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right. Fair enough.
Paul Rudd is looking good in that trailer.
Okay.
Evangeline Lilly was looking good in that trailer. So.
You barely see her.
That's all right. I saw her enough I just saw her in The Hobbit, and saw her on Lost for 5 years walking around in a tank top. So I got good mental images going.
She was Kate on Lost, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, if that's gonna take us, they're gonna take care of everything. Unless anyone has anything else to add.
No.
All right. Well, after some technical difficulties, we were actually able to figure out this video chat. So we'll see how the actual video turns out, and we'll see if we don't do this more often. But I will say goodbye for Anthony, and for Pop Culture Hangover, I've been Justin.
Josh.
Stephanie.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.